And good morning. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and we will be here from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern, delivering you the news that you can definitely use. So stay tuned. Now, today is Tell It All Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about the 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. These are two hot button issues, I should say, that are being talked about. When Donald Trump came into office, he signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship and really put the 14th Amendment at the forefront and on the table. I know a lot of people, find it very controversial. They're like, well, if you're born here, a citizen, but that's not necessarily true. And again, we're going to get into that at the top of the hour at 8 o'clock. But thank you so much for joining me right now. And right now, we're just going to get into some of the daily news that's been going on. And I like all sides. So we're going to check out all sides and look at the more pressing issues of the day. I hope everybody out there they had a wonderful, wonderful Monday. I know for me here in Georgia, it was raining, it was cold. I don't like it. I am definitely ready for the summertime. I am a sunshine human being and I like my sun. So let's get into it. Now, I'm really not going to get too deep into this story because it, it's not that I don't care, but it's just like, why? Why? Did Macron and other European leaders have cocaine on a train ticket? Even if they did, that's really sad that there are leaders that are doing heavy drugs like that. But are you shocked? That's my question. Like, are you shocked or surprised? Because I'm not, honestly. I'm really not shocked and surprised because people do these things in their private time with other leaders or not. They do some other wild stuff too. We're going to find out a lot about what people have been doing between that P. Diddy case and the Epstein file. There's a lot of people that have done things, I should say, off the clock, that would definitely shock and surprise you. But one of the uh, headlines that I wanted to look at was that Qatar had offers Trump a luxury jet, and Trump defends the acceptance of this jet. Now, everybody should know I work in corporate America, and we can only take gifts up to $25, and even in that, I actually worked for a very high end company, and even the gifts that you received, if they were in excess of $25, who did you receive it from and why did they give it to you, right? It's not like, let's say I worked in the legal department at this company and we would get gift baskets, but it was for the entire legal team, right? And we would share it with, the surrounding departments around, because obviously you couldn't eat all the food, but it was for the department. Now, let's just say there was a specific gift given to the general counsel. He would have to find out who was it from, how much was it, why was it even be given to him? Because sometimes those types of gifts can be looked at as, I'm giving you this now so I can get something from you later. That's why giving gifts in corporate America and definitely in government is frowned upon because you don't want to get into situations where it's a pay for play situation, right? Now, it's a $400 million jet, by the way. Okay, just to put that out there, it's a very expensive plane, and it's being given as a gift. And so let's see. So President Donald Trump accepted a luxury Boeing 747 aircraft from the Qatari government on Monday amidst a wave of some bipartisan criticism. The jet may reportedly become a replacement of Air Force One. So it's not saying that it is going to replace Air Force One, but that's what they're putting out there. That it's a possibility. For the details, I think it's a great gesture from Qatar, Trump asserted. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. Trump referred to the jet as a gift from the Department of Defense due to his administration's affairs with Qatar and other Middle Eastern countries. And he said he doesn't plan plan on using it after he leaves office. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said, any donations to this government is always done in full compliance with the law, and we commit ourselves to the utmost transparency, and we will continue to do that. So for context, critics have argued that Trump's acceptance breaches the Constitution's prohibition on U.S. officials accepting gifts from foreign states without proper vetting. Some Democrats labeled the move as blatant corruption and are seeking a Senate vote on the issue, while some Republicans are urged caution in constitutional checks. So here's my thing. All right, Congress, if you don't feel it's right, then put it under scrutiny. It's weird. Like there are times when they'll just do stuff like a Mack truck, and then other times you're like, well, we think it's this. You're a Congress. If you think it's something, then maybe run it through the ethics committee because maybe that's your job. Maybe that's your job. I'm just saying, do your job and stop acting like things just hit you because life happens. Sorry. So how the media covered it. The Hill center bias highlighted legal and ethical concerns of both Democrats and Republicans. Okay. ABC, who leans left, focused on concerns raised by Democrats on one of which described the move as a blatant conflict of interest. Okay. Washington Examiner, that one was right, emphasized both Democrats' concerns and Trump's defense highlight the Justice Department's preliminary ruling that acceptance of the jet would not violate the Constitution. It also noted that the Qatar government denied the jet as a gift Sunday, calling it a possible transfer of an aircraft for temporary use as Air Force One. Okay, so this is more for usage purposes than it is like, oh, we're giving you this wonderful trophy to put on your trophy case. I'm just making that juxtaposement to just for the story's sake. So Qatar isn't giving this as a gift. They're just saying, okay, it'd be a possible transfer of an aircraft for temporary use as Air Force One. So this is just going to be during his presidency. It's not going to be used afterwards. I mean, even President Trump said, it would be donated to whatever library because presidents do build libraries. I think the rocks will still be finished. Reagan's got one. W has George W. Bush. He has another one. So this is just going to be a part of the archive when it's all said and done. Trump's not going to be taking it and replacing it with, because he's got his own plane, by the way, at some point. So that's all to say. But people are going to conflate the story and make it seem like it, and turn it into something that it really isn't. So just be aware when this is mentioned in the news. Now the next one that really caught my eye was that the stock market surged as China agreed on a trade peace. So I took some notes on this. So the U.S. and China agreed to a 90-day pause in their trade war, reducing tariffs and sparking a significant rally in global stock market. So that's what this story is referring to. So the global stock market saw a significant surge on Monday following a temporary trade truce between the U.S. and China. Wow. Okay, so the trade war is working. They've come to a truce. They're like, okay, all right, kind of like watching somebody do the arm wrestling. Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. Now the details on this. The two largest economic superpowers agreed to a 90-day cooling off period during their ongoing trade war, reducing their imposed tariffs significantly. The U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports, which were raised to 145% last month, will be scaled down to China's retaliatory tariffs will drop from 125% to 10%. This agreement offers a breather from the financial market sell-off triggered by last month's tariff war. So I find it fascinating. So, because, everybody was like, oh my gosh, the sky's falling. It's going to be horrible, the recession and this, that. 30%, 10%, not 80, not 75, 30% and 10%. Yeah. You might not like Donald Trump, but I think you might want to read the Art of the Deal. The truce followed an initial trade deal between the U.S. and the United Kingdom, marking the first such agreement since Donald Trump's escalated tariff imposition last month. The U.S. also collected $16.3 billion in customs duties from the tariff in April, setting a monthly record. Meanwhile, Trump's approval ratings have declined, primarily due to the increased economic and inflation concerns among Americans. So it's not that the inflation is happening, it's the concern happening. Our markets are going to make an adjustment. But he did say it's going to be painful. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but things will work themselves out, and they're working themselves out. So Fox News, right? They emphasized the potential political benefits of the truce to Trump. Newsweek, the center, they kept its coverage concise, highlighting the surge of U.S. markets. The New York Times, at Lane's left, noted the significant swings in investor sentiment with every presidential announcement about trade policy. It also mentioned the continued anxiety among investors despite the recent recovery in the markets. Yeah, they're going to have anxiety. They're having anxiety because they know they're not going to lose. They're not going to lose as much as they thought they did. Again, President Trump did say that this is going to be difficult. It's going to be quite an adjustment because no one's really addressed the tariff issue. When he started addressing it, as you can see, we collected $16.3 billion in 1 month. Not over 6, in 1 month. So you've got to see, okay, it's working. Actually, going back in and negotiating these tariffs, it's working, and it will work in our benefit, but the adjustment period is going to be difficult. And like I said, he explained to us that it was going to be difficult from the onset. So nobody would be shocked or surprised or, taken off balance. The other thing I wanted to look into was this, the federal spending increase despite government cuts. Because there has been a lot of, DOGE went in, they cut a lot of contracts, they found a lot of wasteful spending. They actually cut a lot of departments, right? The Department of Education, for one, it's not gone, but they have scaled back, right? USAID, it isn't gone, but it was scaled back. So there were cuts there. I really don't think we're going to see the effect of those cuts maybe till like August. That's my opinion. Only because you at least need about 6 months for it to kick in, because there were contracts that they had found that really should not have been funded or going forth that were eliminated. So you're not going to see really a turnaround or transition in those numbers to, like I said, about late summer. So federal spending increases despite government cuts. So despite President Donald Trump and the Department of Federal Efficiency aiming to cut programs and reduce the size of the government workforce, the federal deficit has increased. So federal spending for the fiscal year beginning October 1st has exceeded the spending in the same period of the previous fiscal year by $342 billion, as reported by the Congressional Budget Office. Defense spending saw a $49 billion increase compared to fiscal 2024. Spending on the Department of Homeland Security jumped $18 billion, reflecting the administration's effort to deport 1 million immigrants within the calendar year. However, the largest contributors to the spending surge remain Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which together have spent nearly $1.5 trillion in the fiscal year, up to $70 billion from the past year. To give context, the rising spending has sparked debate around the Big Beautiful Bill, a massive tax, immigration, and energy package proposed by Trump and his allies. Fiscal conservatives are seeking at least $2 trillion in spending cuts as part of the measure, which aims to make permanent the trillions more dollars in tax cuts from Trump's 2017 tax cuts and Jobs Act. How the media covered it. The Washington Post emphasized the drivers of the spending increase, namely Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and the administration's priorities. Just the News, that means right, focused on the Congressional Budget Office report and the ongoing debate among Republicans about the level of spending cuts and tax cuts to be included in the budget reconciliation bill. Now, some of these increases, especially with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Trump talked about that. He talked about making sure that there was an increase in what people were receiving. Now, we also have to remember that DOGE had found a lot of people that weren't supposed to be receiving Social Security, right? So I think I need to, investigate this a little bit more and see if, I know it's big, if that money that they found from DOGE, if that has been transferred into, Social Security. I'm just saying, it's like, okay, well, it shouldn't be going to these people. Is it back in the budget so that other people that should be receiving it receive it? And, what about people that are newly being put on Social Security? Could that, increase it, right? Because I know there are a lot of people that are being deported, so they're being removed, right? So if you're removing somebody, we have got to remember a lot of our parents, like my mom, she turned 75 this year. Actually, no, 76. So that transition, we're having a lot more people added that are citizens of this country, the baby boomer generation, some people even in my generation, because I'm in my 50s. So there is that increase in people that are at that age of retirement. So I can see how that number increased on top of the cost of living increase that was put in Social Security. Because a lot of people feared that what was going to happen is we're going to get a Republican office and they were going to completely destroy, the programs put in place to help people, right? Like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, what are the welfare programs that we have, SNAP benefits. A lot of people were really concerned about that, but as you can see, it's a large ticket item. But these are a lot of the adjustments that do have to be made so that they flush themselves out. So I can see the increase in spending, but we're saving wasteful spending. So I'm not mad about it. I just know it's going to take a little bit of time for it to shake out. Like I said, by the time we get into the latter part of summer, we'll be able to see some better outcomes from the numbers that are going on. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and check out also.
sides, we believe unbiased news doesn't exist. To get more clicks and make more money, media outlets often report news with a left, right, or sensational slant, either to suit their own agenda or because by telling us what we want to hear, we'll come back for more. Several news outlets in the center do a good job of portraying both sides equitably, but for the most part, American news media is biased. Bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. The key is to get multiple perspectives. But making matters worse, social media and internet search results are heavily filtered, showing us the most popular opinion or results that match our preferences and make us happy. That means we're all living in filter bubbles, where we're only exposed to viewpoints we already agree with, making us less informed and less tolerant of different people and ideas. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it? All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
Good morning, everyone, and we're back. Somebody was telling me in my chat that I was having mic issues, so I'm hoping that changes. So please, Gibson from New York, please let me know if the mic issues have been updated, changed. If you guys can hear me out there, kind of give me a thumbs up, so to speak. If you can, I definitely appreciate it. And, I appreciate the feedback that you guys give me in the comment section. So definitely comment, as I say, like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And definitely if you're on X, please follow me at It's Our Turn Alton, where you will, get some posts from me. I'm also the founder of the Redemption Party. So got a lot going on in the feed. But at the same time, I definitely wanted to include Unfiltered Vision within that feed and within that ecosystem, because there's a lot of people there that I know that I definitely respect, share, and follow. So follow me at It's Our Turn P on X, and definitely on Unfiltered Vision News on YouTube. So, okay, like I said, that kind of concerned me. I was like, I hope everybody can hear me, because I do tend to talk soft. So, it's a thing. But thanks again for letting me know. And now we're going to look at another headline that I found, and it was around the Medicaid reform, and if it could balance the budget and reduce fraud or harm life-saving services. Now, the reason why I wanted to look at that is because obviously we were just in our last segment talking about the increase in the budget with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which I don't want to say that it's usually a standard where the Republicans will cut into social programs, but it's kind of become a thing. It's like Democrats increase it and Republicans decrease it. And right now we're at an increase. But like I said, there was a cost of living increase adjustment. So, and also I think they adjusted paying people back. I want to say that had lost certain benefits, and so that also kicked in. So that, like I said, a lot of increase there were adjustments that needed to be made. But at the same time, they've been taking people off of Social Security that shouldn't be there. So it was good. It was good on both sides, and I'm glad that they're fixing that particular area. And I don't mind my money going there, because that money goes to take care of people like my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, uncles that I have that actually receive Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. So looking, would Medicaid reform balance the budget and reduce fraud or harm life-saving services? So House Republicans released a plan to cut Medicaid spending, including adding background checks. Some Republicans are against the cuts, while others say they don't go far enough. The Wall Street Journal, which is centered, cast the bill as a middle ground proposal. So the case for cuts, an opinion by former Republican Speaker Newt Gingrich, he is always around, and former Republican Rep. Bobby Jindal in Fox News, and that he's right, argued that the bill would make Medicare more affordable and accountable. They noted that most Americans support reform and rooting out Medicaid fraud and waste. Okay. Why should states be incentivized to provide Medicaid coverage for those who can work more than they are to provide coverage for those who cannot be added? And from Senator Josh Hawley, joined many Democrats in arguing against Medicaid cuts in an opinion for the New York Times, which is left, writing, if Congress cuts funding for Medicaid benefits, Missouri workers and their children will lose their health care and hospitals will close. It's that simple. And that pattern will replicate in states across the country. Op-eds in local newspapers in Tennessee, Iowa, and California argue similarly that the cuts would gravely affect tens of thousands of recipients in their state, including revoking the ability to be independent for many disabled people. A hospital CEO from Hugo, Colorado, argued rural hospitals may not survive, adding, despite our best attempts, we cannot offer all of the services our community needs. No rural hospital can. Case in point, Lincoln Health stopped obstetric services nearly 20 years ago. We could no longer recruit specialists to attend to a shrinking number of births. Since then, at least two of our hospital employees have given birth alongside the highway while trying to make it to the nearest labor and delivery ward 85 miles away. Wow. So this always, I find it interesting because of how hospitals will almost rely on the government to supplement them and their states to supplement them. Right? They also rely on the insurance agencies to supplement them, to keep them working and in business. So, hospitals, I live here in Georgia and they closed a few trauma units in different places, but we have a $16 billion surplus. And surplus, we're closing hospitals and people can't get to the care that they need that's convenient to them depending on where they live. And just looking at this, it's like, wow, they stopped doing obstetrics. People are going to have babies. Why would you get rid of something for the surrounding area? And people have to go 85 miles. I mean, that's over an hour, almost two, close to 100 miles that people have to drive to have a baby. Like that doesn't make sense. And that's what we need to do better. So I can understand the increases that we're having. I mean, I can understand both sides to this a little bit. With Medicaid, there is a lot of fraud and waste, but the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare is for individuals that are over 55 and it's supplemental insurance to the insurance they have, or if they don't have any insurance at all and they qualify for it. Now, with Medicaid, this is something that's income driven and based, and typically people that are on cash aid, which is for welfare, or SNAP benefits, they may qualify for a form of Medicaid to actually supplement their insurance needs. I ran for president, and one of my ideas was that the states actually need to have a state-funded insurance program based on the taxes that people are already paying in their state. They're paying taxes. Divert some of that tax money into an insurance plan for the state, and it's just direct payment. Everybody's covered. If they live in that state, they automatically have medical insurance. Then that way, no one has to worry about qualifying for anything. If you live in that state and you pay state taxes, and you'll say, well, Florida, they don't have state taxes. Okay, fine, they don't have state taxes, but they do have other taxes that are paid by citizens in that state. So if you're grocery shopping or whatever, all I'm saying is if you participate in the commerce of that state, you are paying taxes in some way, form, or fashion. And with that, you should automatically have a state insurance that you can, go into and participating if that's what you so choose to do. So if you have a job and they're offering you insurance as well, you can participate in that, and you can, not necessarily decline the state insurance, but it's always there if you need it. So if you were in between jobs or you had a job that didn't offer insurance, you would automatically have state insurance. This way, they could fund the hospital. This way, everybody would have what they needed because it'd be paid for directly through the state. I don't know why we haven't gotten there yet. And a lot of times, and this is just my opinion, we haven't gotten there because of the greed of the insurance companies, because of the greed of the hospital. No, and it is greed. Greed does live in the hospital. They will turn people down for life-saving treatment because they don't want to have to be on the hook if they have to pay part of it, and if the insurance doesn't, pay the hundreds of thousands of dollars they're trying to charge for treatments that they shouldn't be charging. It's sick here in our country, in one of the wealthiest countries that's supposed to be a first world country, how you treat your citizens. And I'm not talking about having a state insurance program that's like a caste system. No. Everybody should be able to see the doctor. Pay a $15, $20 copay, and the doctors don't have to worry about jumping through all kinds of hoops and shoving prescriptions in people's faces to make more money. No, they can just be doctors. And just know that, if somebody lives in one of the states that I mentioned, like Tennessee, and, this person is a citizen of Tennessee, they have state insurance, and I'm going to get the same amount of money I would get if they were, doing the same procedures with Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or any of those other programs. That's something you really have to look into doing, lawmakers, if you're out there listening, because we have a sick care system. We want people sick enough so you can charge them hundreds of thousands of dollars, get them in debt, but you don't want them dead because you still have to siphon enough money off of them to, serve a greed. We really have to get out of this greed and harmful mentality that we're in America, because it's sad and it's shame. It really, really is. And with that, Trump he's announcing, in order to cut prescription drugs by 30 to 80%. You might come across an interesting video where he's talking about one of his friends being on the fat medication, the fat injection. I was just like, wow, okay. But he's not somebody who knows his ways. He's very honest about who he is and how he communicates. So we'll let him have it. But President Donald Trump has announced plans to cut prescription drug prices in the U.S. by 30 to 80% through an executive order. The details: the order aims to implement the most favored nation pricing policy In a Truth Social post, Trump said, I will be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' health care costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. And I can see what he's saying by that, because I think, you can get ivermectin in India for like $2 or something like that. It's some ridiculous number, like it's under $5. And you can get ivermectin. But here, people are charging almost, $200-300 for ivermectin. It's the same medication. Oh, because you can, right? Because of the supply and demand. Because you can. It's not that it costs that much. Because you know you can charge that much. And that's really sad. So the U.S. spends approximately $400 billion on prescription drugs annually. A similar proposal for Trump's first term was blocked by federal courts and later rescinded by the Biden administration. Interesting how that happened. The courts then noted that Medicare, the federal health insurance program for Americans aged 65 or over, was barred from negotiating drug prices. Interesting. Okay. The legal obstacle was removed in 2022 with the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act, which granted Medicare the power to negotiate prices for some drugs. So I find it interesting. The vote was blocked, but it took an act of Congress to say, no, you should be able to negotiate these things. Now that they can negotiate these things, you can't go back. Okay, so the courts can't jump in and say, okay, we're blocking this again. No, you can't do that. So now, this is set up for a slam dunk. We should be able to get these lower prices. So this is going to be good. That means like that, I think some of those, like Ozempic and those other things that are being used for like $1,300, they might be closer to like $50, $60, right? Because that's what some people are paying overseas for the same medication. But we're paying $1,300. And this is monthly. Okay. I need people to understand it's not like, oh, you're gonna get like 1,300 of these little, no, monthly, $1,300. It's ridiculous. It's not safe either. So allegedly, but allegedly on that. I'm not taking it, but there have been some doctors giving feedback here and there saying it might not be the safest way. I think it depends on the individual and their goals. I personally know someone who is taking it, but they're taking it in the shorter term to manage their weight. They're not using it as an end-all be-all for their weight loss. They're just using it as a pick-me-up, a starter. Like, okay, this is getting me to the certain place I need to be. Now I can wean myself off of it, and I have to remain consistent in my weight loss and maintaining my body. So, how the media covered it, of course, The Guardian, that was left, was one of a few, if not the only news sources highlighting the sharp fall in drug makers' share prices following Trump's announcement. The shares in pharmaceutical companies dropping up to 5%. The New York Post, that was left, focused more on Trump's promise to bring fairness to America and the potential savings for U.S. citizens. It also noted the similar policy proposed during Trump's first term. Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, the Inflation Reduction Act kind of kicked down that door to negotiate, but now he really doesn't have to negotiate. They really don't have to at all, because it's already done. Democrats, you guys kicked that door down. Thank you for doing it. But now you don't get to, put the walls back up. Because I know that you don't want anything successful for Donald Trump, but you've got to understand everything that you fight against, it does fight against the American people, because he is the person that people wanted in office. He's really not helping the country at all. It's not. And I know you guys don't care. And I hope there's some Democrats out there listening. The Democrats do not care about this country. You don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. You would actually be looking for a solution. That's how the country moves forward, right? And I'm not saying the Republicans are any better because they do the same thing when you guys went off if they want to fight against everything they're doing. But some of the things they were fighting against, I was like, I understand the fight. I get it. And I understand it. Because see, the other thing they don't talk about in this Inflation Reduction Act is called releasing price for oil land. You know, where they actually did for oil. They increased the lease from 2 cents to 10 cents. That's an 8-cent increase. And people might look like, well, that's very cheap. It adds up when you're talking about thousands of acres of land. Yeah, that was an Inflation Reduction Act. Because they were trying to not necessarily punish those drilling for oil, but they were trying to make it less attractive. Because if they're not drilling as much, right, it won't be as expensive. But then with supply and demand, if people still need that supply and the demand is higher than the supply, yeah, our gas prices are going to go up. And it's just the way things happen and the way things go down. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll see you guys on the inside.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question. Do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back here at Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. And we will be right here. We are live on YouTube and also on X. And yes, that was Brave.com. And I'm actually using the browser. It's really great. It doesn't, so far, fingers crossed, it's not too glitchy. I'm not getting a ton of pop-ups or different things like that. I'm liking it. This is really my first week using it, but it's definitely efficient. And you can also get paid to use this browser. So definitely check it out. But it's the browser that puts you first, which is great. They block ads, save data, and get way faster web pages, which they do just by switching your browser. Like I have a whole bunch of windows open, and when I would use Google Chrome, my I don't want to say my computer would all but lock up, but it kind of would. And I could never use as many pages as that I'm using now. The open separate browser pages. So thank you, Brave.com, for just helping me personally. But there's a powerful VPN. There's a built-in AI assistant. You can also make your searches private. Now, I know you can also do that on Google, but you can do that here as well. And, since I've been using this, I've gotten a lot less spam, a lot less spam. So what does it look like? What does a user first web look like? Better privacy, faster web pages, easier navigation, and experiences that put people over tech companies, which I'm very pleased with. So again, definitely check out Brave.com. I think you guys would like it. They're just showing a little bit of the difference here, when it's Brave. So yeah, and it's like I said, it's a good search engine to use, and you can also earn crypto while you search. So check out Brave.com. And with that, let's get back to the news. I know at the top of the hour we're going to go over the 14th and 5th Amendment for Talk About It Tuesday. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. So if you know of anybody else that might be interested in, kind of nerding out and learning more about the 14th Amendment and why President Trump signed the executive order to stop birthright citizenship, please join us here on Unfiltered Vision News. So let's see what I wanted to look at here. We got notes and I've got news. Which one? Oh my, this has got to be an opinion piece. Tim Walz says he may run for president in 2028 despite failure of Harris campaign. Do whatever it takes. I gotta read that. I think he's just saying this. I hope. It was bad. I think his heart's in the right place, maybe, to want to do the right thing for the American people. But no, it's a no for me. So failed. Wow. Okay, that's how we're starting. And this is from the New York Post. Oh, wow. Well, we can't even say former. No. Failed. This is how we're starting out this article. So, failed 2024 Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz has said he would certainly consider running for president in 2028 despite his crushing defeat alongside then Vice President Kamala Harris this past November. Look, I never had an ambition to be president or vice president. I was honored to be asked, the Minnesota governor told the New Yorker radio hour on Sunday. If I feel I can serve, I will. And if nationally people are like, dude, we tried you, and look how that worked out. I'm good. I'm not even gonna read the full story because no, I'm okay. If he considers it, that's fine. I don't think he's the future of the Democratic Party, honestly. The Democratic Party really needs to take this time. I think, I would say by the end of the year, just take this year to really regroup and reflect on where you want the party to go and really see the issues facing American people. Right now, a lot of these issues are social issues that people are having. The transgender topic is really big, and it is making a lot of people walk away from the Democrat Party just based on the fact that Democrats support men and women's sports. They support men and women's athletes while turning around saying we really support women and we want them to have, the right to health care in their bodies. these women to also get abortions and kill the babies. So you guys really, as a party, need to just regroup and listen to the American people. Because, that I know people that are Democrats, they don't agree with a lot of things that I just said, and they're Democrats. So what are you doing, leadership, to really fix your party? You guys really need to have come to Jesus meeting and figure this out, because people want to be a part of the Democratic Party, but they do not want what you're doing in the party right now. So you guys, like I said, you need to come together, you need to figure it out. It's not so much rebranding, it's really the focus of the party. The ideology has gotten to a point where people just are not with where the party's headed. I'll just say that. So David Hogg, if you're listening out there, I know that you were talking to, oh my goodness, I forget his name. He wears glasses. He has a very heavy country accent. I know you were asking me, like, what can we do to turn things around in the party? And I think the best thing that you can do, and this might seem old school, you need to grow up. You need to talk to people. Because I know it's not that you're trying to find a quick fix, but you're really trying to understand the heart of the matter, and you need to go talk to people. Not just take quotes anymore. Your party, it needs to hear. Okay? And you need to just talk to people. That's about the best advice that I can give you. Okay? And so with that, we've got about 6 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm really, really excited to get into Tell It All Tuesday, where we're talking about the 14th and the 5th Amendment, and going from there. But I did want to cover some other topics. Let's see here. I don't know. I'm not trying to play Russian roulette, child, with this. But let's look at, interesting. I want to check out this story for Gavin Newsom, how he's going to move to clear California's homeless encampment. Now, this is going to be interesting. Now, I grew up in California, and we would see homeless people, but nothing like it is now. Like, when they say they're homeless encampments, these are literally like small, and they're not even small. It's a bit like sub-cities. Yeah, that's about the best way to describe it. It's a sub-city, because people are literally living on the sidewalk. You can't walk down the sidewalk. You would have to walk on the street in some areas of Los Angeles. And it's really, really sad what's happening in California. But California Governor Gavin Newsom has drawn up a template local ordinance for the state's local governments to help them clear and ban the homeless encampments that have popped up in recent years. Newsom cannot force the adoption of his ordinance, but he can use the carrot of billions of dollars in state funding for housing issues to encourage cities to take it on. He vowed to crack down on encampments last year. Okay. I'm sorry. It's gotten worse since you've been in office. Now it's the issue. They've been sinking billions of dollars in trying to eradicate homelessness, and it's gotten worse. I want everybody to hear what I'm saying. It's gotten worse. It's not gotten better. You know why? Because people making $90,000 are living in their car. You know why? Because they unfortunately didn't have a job, got evicted from an apartment. Now they can't get an apartment anymore. Fix that. Okay? Fix the fact that it costs almost $5,000 to have an apartment somewhere in California. Fix that. Maybe open up the hospitals for the mentally impaired that are on the street and those who need drug rehab. Fix that instead of basically saying we need this blight cleared up off the sidewalk. You're not coming up with solutions. You're just kicking the can down the road trying to look like you really want to fix this. You don't want to fix this. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to fix it. You want to look good because you're trying to run for president in 2028. That's what you're doing. But we all know what you're doing, and no one's going, no one's buying it, bro. No one's buying it. You have been one of the worst governors in my lifetime that I've ever seen. Trying to force people to go all electric by 2030? Really? Penalties on people who have gas-powered vehicles? Really? But this is what you're doing. Excuse me. This is what you are doing. You also put a team of people in place, to bring down all kinds of different laws on people that they don't even want. And you put a task force in place. Wait a minute. You went as far as telling parents that they don't have the right not to call their children, that they have their children, by their respected born sex. And if the parents don't go along with the transgender issue, they can have their children taken away from them. You've allowed schools to go behind the parents' back to start transitioning children. This is happening in your state, sir. In your state. Mr. Newsom. Yes, I'm talking directly to you. Really? Really? And now homelessness is a problem. Now it's an issue that we all have to solve. It has gotten worse since you have been governor. And it was already bad before you got in office. So I'm not saying it hasn't been horrible. San Francisco, where your auntie lives, Auntie Pelosi, yeah. They have a poop map. And it got so bad, I don't even know if people can use it anymore. And that was to avoid feces on the streets, by the way, if anybody needs to know. Yes, it's a real act in California when you go to San Francisco. This has been a problem. The leadership in California is disgusting. It's a beautiful state, run by horrible people. Yes, you're horrible people. I'm going to say it. Since nobody else wants to say it, I will say it. You need to go away. Just go off from the pasture. I don't know. Do some speaking engagements, write a book, do whatever you need to do. But I need you to get out of California. The Palisades, going in there smiling and giggling. Really? People lost their homes, people lost their lives, and you over there giggling about a 15-minute city. You need to go away, Mr. Newsom. Yeah, that one got me a little bit energetic this morning. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back after the break, we are going to discuss the Tell It All Tuesday topic, which is going to be the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment. See you guys on the other side.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. And it is a great day. It's Tuesday, and Hello Tuesday. Our topic this morning is going to be the 14th Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. Now, this is about birthright citizenship and how Donald Trump wants to end it. And so I really wanted to dig in to the 14th Amendment, look at what he's proposing to do, and then also look at some of the, I don't want to say backlash, but I will say the concerns of some of the other states that are out there, and also an attorney that I kind of agree with on the 14th Amendment. I got a comment that came in. Oh, I got a good morning. Yay, I want to read it. Good morning from a young Republican. Yeah, I'm sorry, Republican Black Young. It's kind of weird. It's a lot going on. You know how you get your ex name, and it'll have like like a lot of different words in it. But thank you so much for joining us this morning on Unfiltered Vision. So let's get into it. So you see on the screen, I've got it all up. 14th Amendment, U.S. Constitution, Civil Rights, 1868. So it was passed by Congress on June 13th, 1866, was ratified July 9th, 1868. The 14th Amendment extends liberties and rights granted by the Bill of Rights to formerly enslaved people. I think that's specific. I think it's specific. I don't think it granted it to everybody, to formerly enslaved people. So we're talking about a specific designation of people. So I want everybody to keep that in mind as we go forward here. So following the Civil War, Congress submitted to the states 3 amendments as part of its Reconstruction program to guarantee equal civil and legal rights to Black citizens. These are the Negroes that were formerly enslaved. So let's just put that out there. A major provision of the 14th Amendment was to grant citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, thereby granting citizenship to formerly enslaved people. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, thereby granting citizenship to formerly enslaved people. Still formerly enslaved. It's still encapsulating people. Another equally important provision was the statement that nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. The right to due process of law and equal protection of the law now applied to both the federal and state government. This was talking about former slaves. It wasn't really talking about a lot of people. So it's talking about the slaves and their descendants specifically. It doesn't apply to everybody. And I know people out there want to say, oh, well, it just applies to everyone. It doesn't. It doesn't. It was for a specific group of people because those people were slaves and they were not treated well. They were treated like animals. And they were beaten and they were hung and they were burned alive. Okay. And the 14th Amendment sought to ratify that. It sought to protect them and their descendants specifically. Because my whole thing is this: without the 14th Amendment, how are people even claiming you pop a squat and you have a baby here, but that baby's a citizen of this country without the 14th Amendment? I'll just go back. Right. Because it doesn't make sense. It could only apply to the formerly enslaved and their descendants so that they could perpetually be citizens in this country. That applies to me. I am a descendant of child slavery. Without the 14th Amendment, I wouldn't be a citizen of this country. So I need people to understand that part. So on June 16, 1866, the House Joint Resolution proposing the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was submitted to the states on July 28, 1869, left blank. Okay, so we're here. Now, this is some more historical background on who is one of the authors. So Congressman John A. Graham of Ohio, the primary author of the first section of the 14th Amendment, intended that the amendment also nationalize the Bill of Rights by making it binding upon the states. When introducing the amendment, Senator Jacob Howard of Michigan specifically stated that the privileges and immunities clause would extend to the states the personal rights guaranteed and secured by the first 8 amendments. Historians disagree on how widely Graham's and Howard's views were shared at the time in the Congress or across the country in general. No one in Congress explicitly contradicted their view of the amendment, but only a few members said anything at all about its meaning or this issue. For many years, the Supreme Court ruled that the amendment did not extend the Bill of Rights to the states. I find it fascinating because what he was trying to do is ensure that no matter where people live, and at that time it was 37 states, not 50, that they would have those protections. He was trying to make sure that people were protected. So not only did the 14th Amendment fail to extend the Bill of Rights to the states, it also failed to protect the rights of Black citizens. A legacy of Reconstruction was the determined struggle of Black and white citizens to make the promise of the 14th Amendment a reality. Citizens petitioned and initiated court cases. Congress enacted legislation, and the executive branch attempted to enforce measures that would guard all citizens' rights. While these citizens did not succeed in empowering the 14th Amendment during Reconstruction, they effectively articulated arguments and offered dissenting opinions that would be the basis for change in the 20th century. Yeah, it's crazy. Just to get right, patiently. I'm just telling y'all. Sometimes I read, it's coming out garbled. Interesting. Okay. Hopefully that's better. I'm still getting some feedback. I'm trying to pay attention. It's saying it's coming out garbled. Can you give me some feedback, young Republican? Or let me know if this is better. I'm bringing the microphone closer to my face. I usually don't get too many issues out of it. It's a Yeti. It's one of those like really snazzy dazzy microphones. And I know I talk soft. So I'm not even gonna, say that I'm the best in the whole wide world, but just give me a second, you guys. I want to just check my audio settings, make sure nothing changed, and it did change. Oh my goodness. So I hope that everybody can hear me a little bit better now. I've been having, I don't want to say issues, but if I have a bobble in StreamYard, it will switch my microphone back to the USB microphone, which is attached to my camera. I know it's a lot going on just to say, but that's what's going on. So again, hopefully, thank you so much for saying that it's coming out gargled. So I had like 7 minutes of gargle going on. But thank you everybody who is joined us and listening in this morning. Again, I hope that it is getting better. And thank you guys so much for just joining me in the chat, joining me in the conversation, and being here this morning with me on Unfiltered Vision News. We are at Tell It All Tuesday, and we are talking about the 14th and the 15th Amendment. So I really just want to focus on Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, and then we'll get into the Fifth Amendment after we have a short break. But I wanted to really spend some time here because we do have an immigration problem. We do have an issue where people, they come to this country
and they feel they have a right to be here and have a baby. And then when that baby is just an automatic citizen, and that baby can just, be the anchor to, getting all kinds of services and schools and housing. And no, it was never for that. It was never meant for that. It's been used and abused in that way, but it was never meant for that. So if you guys have joined me here in the past couple of minutes, we read through just kind of like the historical background of the 14th Amendment, and now we're going to get into the reading of it. So it says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of that state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. Now, if you were to read this today, you're like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Now, the people that were just born here, they're born here. The persons that they're referring to are persons that were descendants of slaves. So you have to remember, at the time this was written to protect the descendants of slaves, their descendants. That's why it says all persons born. The naturalized persons, right, were people who came here and were naturalized under our governing laws and constitution, and they had children. So that's where the naturalization refers to these individuals. Okay. We're not talking about everybody. You cannot just come here, not be naturalized, and then come here illegally. Let's just say that. Come here illegally, have a baby, and think that that baby is now, because they were born here in the United States, they have all the rights and privileges under the 14th Amendment. They do not. They are not descendants. This was written specifically for descendants because, see, without it, I am not a citizen of this country. And I am a descendant of chattel slavery. I am. I've traced it all the way back. I might share it with you guys one day just so you can see my family tree and history of where it come from. My dad, he did the due diligence, and he actually traced our family lineage back over 180 years. I have to put that on there because he gave me our family tree when I was roughly in my 20s, and I'm in my 50s now. So about 30 years ago. And at that time, it was 150 years. So about 180 years, he did the due diligence of finding our roots. And it went back to a slave plantation where Wright, my maiden name, stems from. And it's also on my grandmother's side. They were also descendants of chattel slavery. So maternal and paternal, both. So I know that I am of the soil, but that's who that refers to. It refers to me. It applies to me. It applies to my children, my grandchildren, and so forth. They had to write it that way so that I could not be removed from this country. It's not just for everyone to come over here and have a baby and expect them to be citizens. That's not how this works. Now, if someone came here and they became naturalized as a citizen, it gives protection to their children and their children's children. But it has to be done the right way. We have gotten caught up in this, how should I say it, space where when we read it and we want it to say what we want it to say and agree with the way we want it to agree with us, that's how it should be, as opposed to being the letter of the law, I should say. This is one of those amendments where people want to turn and twist it. They want to say, well, you can't deprive anybody of life or liberty if they were born here. If they are not a descendant of slavery, if they are not naturalized, that's why that's in there. then the 14th Amendment does not apply, period. It doesn't apply. It was written specifically for people so that their descendants would have life, liberty, and property. Okay? That's why it was written. Stop trying to change it to be convenient, you know. And I'll bring this up and then we'll take a short break. But, you know, we got to see in the past 4 years how the 14th Amendment was completely abused. And it's been being abused for years. Trust me, it was abused back in the 80s and probably prior to that. And it should not have been. And the reason why I know it was abused, because see, in 1965, they had an Immigration Act, right? That opened the doors to people to come here from other countries. Now, my whole thing is this. Why would they do that if they could just use the 14th Amendment, right? It's because they couldn't. They needed to come over here the right way and become naturalized so that their descendants would be covered under the 14th Amendment. They couldn't just come over here and have a baby and just throw them under the 14th Amendment. That's why. And a lot of people don't look at that trajectory. They just look at, okay, I'm here. I'm healthy. You know, I'm going to have a kid. And regardless of my status, my kid's covered under the 14th Amendment. No, they are not. No, they're not. And this birther tourism thing going on, and I lived through that as well in Irvine, California. Yes, there are people that come over here from certain countries, and you can look it up. They have websites dedicated to it, telling these individuals how to fly here, get on welfare, get aid, right? Have their kid here, and then have dual citizenship and return to their country. It's a crime. And their citizenship should all be revoked. We need to look into that too. But I'm really glad that Donald Trump is having the conversation that he's having on this topic, because it needs to happen. The birthright citizenship, it's not a thing. It never has been. But it's being used and it's being weaponized against the American people. And with that, we're going to take a short break and we'll see you on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and we will be with you here to the top of the 9 o'clock hour here on Let the Truth Be Told Network. And this is the show, Unfiltered Vision News. And what I wanted to look at is just to wrap up that last promo that you saw from the Cash to Crypto Society. Learn the truth about crypto. Definitely check them out. You can learn more about crypto. They have seminars. They also have weekly webinars to learn more about crypto. They have ways for you to invest and also ways to tell you how to make money. Like, this is something that I learned from them at their last seminar, to use Brave.com as my web browser and get paid crypto for just browsing, doing something I'm doing anyway. And so they definitely have ways of you getting paid in crypto and just the future of crypto and getting in on the ground floor now. And I know a lot of people say the ground floor, you know, Bitcoin is worth over 90,000. Yes, it is. But there are still other crypto coins out there that are being developed. There's XRP, there's Ethereum, there's Litecoin. So there's a lot of different ways that crypto is being used in a fiat manner. And you really want to get in on it now as the commercial was saying we need to learn how to be our own banks so that we are able to control our own money and not just leave that control up to others. So with that, definitely check out Cash to Crypto Society.com. That's Cash to Crypto Society.com. So now we're going to get back to the 14th Amendment. We're getting back to this discussion, and where we left, we were definitely talking about the difference between naturalization and being a person born here. And it was saying all persons born are naturalized. Now, again, all persons born, those were the descendants of slaves. Okay, not just anybody. And that's why I need people to understand. You can't just come here from another country, have a baby, and be like, "Yay, no." It doesn't work that way. You can come here and become naturalized, right? And then in your lineage, all persons born under you, right, or your spouse that are here, that are naturalized, if you're from another country, yes, you would have protections under the 14th Amendment. You cannot just come here and have a baby and be protected under the 14th Amendment. That's not how that works. We do have laws. And this is a very clear law. When it says all persons born, those persons in reference were persons of slaves that were already here. They had to figure out a way to perpetually create citizenship for anyone born under that lineage. That's how it works. Okay, so I want to take a quick look at Trump's remarks on birthright citizenship. Okay, and this is just the explanation they're given. And this dates back to January 2025. Now, this is before the inauguration, okay, because he was inaugurated on January 21st. So the president-elect has said he intends to end birthright citizenship. We break down why that's clearly unconstitutional. So I wanted to bring this up because there are those who say it's not constitutional. It's unconstitutional. Really? I just told you. I just read it to you the way it reads. But now I really wanted to take a look at how perverted people are. And I'm going to say it that way. I am a paralegal, and it's perverted. You have perverted the Constitution because we'll get more into it, but if he wants to end birthright citizenship and you're saying it's unconstitutional, you would make me not a citizen. It wouldn't apply to me. If it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. It can't be both at the same time. It can't be one or the other. So let's get into it. It says President-elect Donald Trump has said that he intends to issue an executive order to end birthright citizenship for millions of children, which he has. Fast forward. Trump's campaign website states that to qualify as a citizen, any baby born after his executive order would need to have at least one parent who is a citizen or lawful permanent resident, which makes sense. That's the naturalization process we were talking about. Scholars across the political spectrum agree that this proposal is clearly unconstitutional because it plainly violates the 14th Amendment. The ACLU breaks down why. What? Yeah. Now, on this one, Trump is right. And on this one, they are wrong. But I need to bring in the wrong. So when I share with you somebody who breaks it down very quickly, very succinctly, you'll see what I'm talking about. So the Constitution protects birthright citizenship, and it doesn't. With extremely limited exceptions, the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause provides that all children born in the U.S. are citizens. The birthright citizenship rule comes from English common law and dates back centuries. This rule has briefly rejected by Dred Scott versus Stanford, when the Supreme Court denied citizenship to the descendants of slaves. This shameful attempt to deprive natural-born Americans of their rights was later ratified by the 14th Amendment, which has safeguarded birthright citizenship ever since. Okay, now they're conflating two totally different things. They just said it was a shameful attempt to deprive natural-born Americans of their rights, was later ratified by the 14th Amendment. Because, see, the court denied citizenship to the descendants of slaves. So they had to come up with the 14th Amendment. Again, here's my thing. Let's just say the court would have said, okay, cool, you get to be citizens. Would we even have a 14th Amendment? Would we even need it? Would we even be here having this conversation right now? Because, see, I didn't pull it up, but in our Constitution, it does talk about, foreign people and how they are able to properly go about becoming citizens through immigration process in our country. They didn't know what to do with us, my elders, because they were taken from someplace else and they were brought here against their will. And then those descendants, which I come from, needed to be citizens because they weren't citizens. They didn't just agree to come here. There was no naturalization process for them. They were just here. Dred Scott was insult to injury because, these people are here, they worked hard, and you still don't want to make them citizens. So the Congress stepped in and wrote the 14th Amendment for slaves, not just for everybody. It can't be for just one group and then be applied to everybody. And that's my argument here. I'm being triggered right now reading this. I'm going to read a little bit more and then I'm going to, get into this other, person. I really want you guys to hear their feedback on the 14th Amendment. But reading that right now, it's like gaslighting. It's like, why are you saying these two things don't go together, but you're forcing them and making them go together because it needs to cover your argument. Your argument is flawed. ACLU. Yes, I'm calling you out to the carpet. Find me, call me. I'm all over social media. It's good. Whatever. We can go. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to trample all over my birthright and the birthright of my children. And to other individuals I know that are descendants of chattel slavery. And some of them may go by ADOS or foundational Black Americans or Negroes. You're not going to trample over our birthright as if you can with a whole bunch of fancy words. Doesn't hold water. I just read your paragraph and you completely contradicted yourself. Sad. It's very sad, but it's okay. Because I like the fact that Donald Trump has said, no, you cannot just come here and have a baby and that baby become a citizen. That's not going to work. Now, if they do have one parent that is a citizen here, yeah, that does help them out. Because see, then whoever parent, whether mom or dad, right, can go through the naturalization process to become a citizen. And they might be in the process of becoming a citizen. Because they're either married or they're with that person and they're going through the process. Okay? But all these people coming here illegally to our country and just having babies everywhere and we're supposed to just pick up the slack for that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. That's what we're not going to do. And you are not going to trample over the 14th Amendment trying to change the trajectory of this country. Oh, no. Oh, no. Absolutely not. It says the Citizenship Clause states all persons born or naturalized in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Today, there is only one group that is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and thus does not attain birthright citizenship. Children born to foreign diplomats who are protected by sovereign immunity and are therefore not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. There are people that are they're considered foreigners, but because they are under, let's just say they're from London and they're under the jurisdiction of London, they're not under the jurisdiction of the United States. That's the group that they're talking about. But guess what? That applies to all of them. If you come here from Mexico and you are not a naturalized citizen of this country, you are under the jurisdiction of Mexico, not of the United States because you had a baby here. ACLU, get your facts right. Stop gaslighting people. Stop lying to people. Stop telling them things that aren't true. Now, a lot of people out there might be like, wow, you just don't like people, or you're just being really hateful. All of these children, it's not their fault. It is their parents' fault. That is criminal behavior. You are acting outside of the law, and you want the law to protect you? Absolutely not. You need to go back home. You need to go to your country because you don't belong here. We are a nation of laws, and we will uphold those laws. And you have no intention of upholding the law, doing what you're doing because you did it on purpose. Go home. I encourage everyone who came over the border in the past at least 4 years, if you are not a U.S. citizen here, you take your child and you go back to your home country and you migrate here the right way. Nobody gets to skip the line because there are several thousands of people in line to do their immigration the right way, to make sure that their children are citizens of this country the right way. Nobody gets to jump the line. Absolutely not. In ACLU, y'all should be brought up on charges for misleading people. I'm going to put it out there. You should be. You should be. You're wrong. You're wrong in what you're doing, and you need to stop gaslighting people and lying to people. But because, see, with the Smith-Mundt Act, this is propaganda. This is what this looks like, everyone out there. So ACLU, stop putting out propaganda. Stop lying to people. Stop telling them things that aren't true. You need to start doing what's right. And stop telling people what's not true. And with that, we'll take a short break and we will be right back.
All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, lean left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides uses many methodologies to determine bias, including the Blind Bias Survey, gathering people from all parts of the political bias spectrum and having them read and rate articles blindly, without telling them who wrote the article or which media outlet it came from. Then we take the average bias rating of several articles from a given media outlet for our final bias rating. Another powerful method we use is the editorial review. Focus groups of people with multiple political viewpoints who review the works of a media outlet and come to a consensus on its bias. We also look at credible third-party data, including academic research by top universities. Finally, what you say matters. We gather community feedback on our site every day, including hundreds of thousands of votes on our bias ratings. Our final bias ratings aren't determined by these votes, so they can't be gamed or falsified by any group. But we do analyze those votes for input and look for warning signs that our current bias ratings might be off. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
hear me? Hopefully you guys can hear me. Unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties asking me to, unfortunately, how should I say, start my computer over again. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that. But hopefully you guys out there can hear me. I'm gonna just plow through this and see if I can still share my screen. I know you guys can't see me, hopefully you can hear me. And I wanted to show you this video. And I won't go too much further into the broadcast, but I definitely wanted to share this with you. And this is about the 14th Amendment. And so here we go.
The fight on birthright citizenship is now in front of the Supreme Court. Justices want to hear from states challenging President Trump's executive order. The move signals justices will consider the Trump administration's request to lift the nationwide pause. Dozens of Democratic-led states are suing, arguing it's unconstitutional and could cause irreparable harms. Now, on the other hand, 18 states are supporting the order, including South Carolina. The president's plan seeks to deny citizenship to any child born after February 19th whose undocumented parents are living in the U.S. News Nation's Nick Smith spoke with Wilson about the decision to support President Trump's order.
As this legal battle continues to unfold, you argue it's a crucial move to deter illegal immigration and birthright tourism. What is your office doing right now to prioritize the end of birthright citizenship?
Well, obviously, we joined this brief to the Supreme Court that you just talked about, and this is something that I've been looking at for many years. Obviously, 160 so years ago when they passed the 14th Amendment, that amendment was rightfully designed to bestow citizenship on emancipated slaves, which needed to happen, but it has been misinterpreted over the last 160 years to incentivize the ridiculous notion that somebody can come to the United States in the dead of night, drop a child like an anchor, like a boat drops an anchor, and all of a sudden they have been bestowed citizenship for henceforth evermore. That was not the intention of the framers of the 14th Amendment, but somehow as Americans, we have somehow gotten into this belief that this misapplied constitutional belief is somehow the way it was intended, and that's simply not the case.
South Carolina's Attorney General Alan Wilson, who you just saw there, goes on to say he believes the court will rule in favor of the Trump administration.